Hey guys, hoping all is well with everyone. So in this video, I'm going to be kind of unofficially introducing my 4th grade Common Core curriculum playlist. So this is going to be, it is going to be starting with lesson 2.1. So this is going to be looking at addition and making estimates. I will be getting up the lesson 1 videos up as well, but I thought I'd start with lesson 2. So just to get some vocabulary introduced here, when we talk about making estimates, we're not making exact values. We're not doing all the number crunching and addition with carrying and all of that. What we're doing with estimations is making a kind of ballpark value that is very close to, but not the exact value that we need to reach when taking a sum of two or more numbers when using in the operation of addition. So again, with this idea of estimation, we are going to be using the kind of core foundation principle and technique of rounding to be able to kind of get us very close to, but not an exact value. So on this page here, with our step in, it says the table shows the number of cars that drove past the northern entrance of a school in 1 week. And then we basically see that there are the 7 days of the week in the columns, and in the rows are the morning and afternoon. So they're splitting the day in half, being morning and afternoon. And so the question is about how many cars drove past the school on each school day. Estimate the number of cars that drove past the school on Monday. How did you arrive at your estimate? Now, one thing I want to point out right away in this sentence that's a very key word for knowing that you're going to be estimating is the word about. That word is a very key or buzzword that we can look for to give us a hint that we're not going to be finding an exact value. Another word that you could see in very similarly or synonymously to about is approximately. Okay, so the cat here with the exercise headband says that I looked for a nearby 10 or 100 to round each number. I then added 400 plus 350 plus equals 750. So let's go ahead and look at Monday. On Monday, the morning was 395. So let's just kind of review a little bit about rounding. So if we have 395, now here he rounded to the nearest hundred. So what he did was he looked at the place value in question, which is the hundredths place, and then he went to the right and saw that because 9 is 5 or greater, then this is going to round up to the next hundred. This is going to be 400. And then he looked at 354, and he rounded this to the nearest tenth. And what he did here was very similarly, but a little different, is he looked at the tens place value as the place value in question. He looked again to the right, and he saw that that number is 4 or less. So that's going to round down. To the nearest 10 is going to be 350. So when we round down, that place value does not change, and that one's place is going to become a 0. And that's specifically when we round to the nearest 10. Okay? So that's going to be how the cat was able to estimate 750. He then added 450 to 350. Okay? Alright. Now let's look at, I think that's a turkey, but I'm not positively sure. But it says, estimate the number of cars that drove past the school on Friday. Is the total greater or less than 1,000? How did you decide? So the turkey says that there were more than 500 cars in the morning and in the afternoon, so the total has to be greater than 1,000. So that's very true. Even if you rounded down to the nearest hundred, let's see what happens there. If you rounded down to the rounded to the nearest hundred, 589 would round to. We look at the five. That's the hundreds place. We look at that place value in question. Look to the right. It's 5 or greater, so it's going to round to 600. And then we also see that if we were to round 630 to the nearest hundred, then we look at the place value in question and then go to the right. This is going to be 4 or less, so that's going to round down to the nearest hundred. So that's going to also round to 600. So when we take an estimate here to the nearest 100, we're going to get 1200. But as we can see from not only the turkey's estimation that there were more than 500 in the morning and the afternoon, it's greater than 1,000, we can kind of use our estimate as like a second evidentiary support or kind of backup method to show that same idea. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at this step up question. It says, look at the table above, estimate the total number of cars for each of these days, show your thinking. So again, you're going to want to use the tens and hundreds rounding, kind of basically whatever seems comfortable in the situation. As we go through these, you're going to start to notice what is kind of more beneficial to use, and then we can make those estimations. But for what I'm going to do here is for A and B, I'm going to round to the nearest 100. For C and D, I'm going to round to the nearest tenth. Okay, and I'm going to use paint here to look at each of the in-depth rounding and some addition, so we don't have to try to fit all of those in the purple boxes. So for Wednesday, we have 398. Oops. We have 398. And we have 376. And so we're going to round both of these to the nearest 100. So what I do is I go to that hundreds place. And remember, if you want to, you can highlight your place values. So you have your ones, your tens, and your hundreds. Okay. So we're going to look at those place values in question. You can underline them for housekeeping and organization. Look to the right, and if it's 5 or greater, we'll round up. So this is going to round up to 400 for the morning, and the afternoon, same idea. We're going to look to the right of the place value in question. 7 is 5 or greater, so that's going to round up to 400. So again, when we round up, we increase the place value by 1, and the rest becomes zeros. Okay? And then again, that's specific on which place value you're rounding to. So if it's 100, the hundreds place will increase by 1, and then all the rest will be zeros. If it was to the nearest 10, the tens place will increase by 1, and then the ones place will become 0. Okay. So on Wednesday, the sum of our estimate is going to be 400 plus 400. 0 plus 0 is 0. 0 plus 0 is 0. And 4 plus 4 is 8. So our estimate for Wednesday is 800. Okay, let's go ahead and look at the next one. Oops. Alright, Thursday. So Thursday we have 405. And we have 437. Now, as I'm kind of mentioning this, I do want to caution you and to be a little very watchful, because one thing you're going to notice when you make estimates is when you're trying to determine a certain day in this case, there may be that when you make an estimate with something more generalized, like the hundreds place, you may find that more than one day are equal when you make those estimations. So the more place values that you go in more detail, the more you can kind of weed out those common answers. And I'll kind of explain that when we come to that situation. But just to kind of keep that in the on the back burner and in the back of your mind right now, so to speak. So for 405, again, we're going to round Thursday to the nearest 100. I look to the right of my place value. It's 0, so that's 4 or less. So this is going to round to 400. It's going to round down. And then I have 437, place value in question. Look to the right, and it's also 4 or less. So this is also going to be 400. So we see here that commonality with this is going to be the same estimate as Wednesday's was. And it's okay because right now they just kind of want an estimate for each of the days. But if we needed to represent something like, say, which day had the closest approximation or estimate to this number of cars, well, if we chose to round to the nearest 100, we would get 800 for Wednesday and Thursday. And we can't have 2 days. We need to be more specific. So at that point, we may choose to estimate to the nearest tens, or even if we needed to, the nearest one or the exact value. So that's just kind of something to keep in mind here when we're making these estimations. Let's go ahead and look at the next one. So these next ones for Tuesday and Saturday, I'm going to round to the nearest tenth. So for Tuesday we have 354, and we have 409. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the tens place. Remember your placeholder, your place value letters, so ones, tens, hundreds. So 354, I look at that tens place and then I go to the right. It's 4 or less, so it's going to round down so that tens value is going to stay the same and that 4 is going to become a 0. So this is going to become 350. Okay, and then same thing with 409. I look at the tens place in question and then I go to the right. It's going to be 5 or greater, so this is the tens place, which is what the 0 is now, is going to increase by 1, so it's going to be 1, and then that ones place is going to become 0. Okay, so our estimate for 409 to the nearest 10 is 410. And that's another thing you want to be careful with, is it's rounding to the nearest 10, not the nearest tenth. Tenth is when we start to involve decimals, so we want to be really careful with our terminology there. 0 plus 0 is 0, 5 plus 1 is 6, 3 plus 4 is 7, so our estimate to the nearest tenth for Tuesday is 760. Okay, and we got one more to go. So Saturday, alright, Saturday we have 217 and 289. So again, I'm going to round up to the nearest tenths with 10 with these. And so we look at that place value in question. We look to the right, round up. And so that 7 is 5 or greater, so we'll round up so that 10 place value increases by 1 and the rest to the right place values become zeros. And then for 289, we look at that place value of the tens place in question, look to the right, it's also 5 or greater, so that tens place is going to increase by 1, and then we are going to have all of the rest of the place values to the right become 0. So our estimate when we add these is 0 plus 0 is 0, 2 plus 9 is 11, we carry the 1, careful there, 1 plus 2 is 3, and 3 plus 2 is 5. So the estimate for Saturday is 510, which makes sense. You probably wouldn't see too many cars, or much, you would probably see much less cars, being that it would be on a weekend. So that's why those Sunday and Saturday numbers are a little lower. Okay? Alright, let's look at the next page here, which looks at a very similar activity, but again, this is going to be looking at where sometimes our estimations have to be more specific because we have to find one particular answer, and if our estimations overlap between possible answers, we have to be more specific to get closer to an approximation. So it says this table shows the number of cars that drove past the southern entrance of a school in 1 week. So again, we have the days of the week in the columns, and then we have the morning and the afternoon split between 2 rows. So number 2 says write the day on which the total number of cars that drove past the school is closest to each number below. Show your thinking. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to round all of these to the nearest hundred. I'm going to do it a little quicker of a pace just to kind of get all the numbers up here, and then we will go ahead and do the actual question. So what I'll do here is I'm going to make a little table. So Monday, or Tuesday, Wednesday. I'm going to put R for Thursday, just to keep it different. Friday, and then I'll put SA for Saturday, and SU for Sunday. I know it's not in the exact order as the table, but I'll try to keep things nice and organized here. Alright, so for Monday it's 278 and 252. So if I round 278 to the nearest hundred, I'll get 300. And then if I round the afternoon to the nearest hundred, I also get 300 because that 5 is going to round up. Alright. Okay, so Tuesday is going to be 305, which would round down to 300. And then 349 would also round down to 300. Wednesday would round up to 300 because 288 would round up to 300. And then 291 would also round up to 300. You might start to see a theme here. Thursday is going to round down to 400. And then afternoon is also going to round up to 400. Friday is going to round up to 400 in the morning. And then round down to 300 in the afternoon. Saturday is going to round up to 200 in the morning, and then round down to 300 in the afternoon. Oh, I'm sorry. Looking at the wrong day. Saturday afternoon will round down to 100. Thought that number was a little higher than it should have been. And then Sunday will round down to 100 in the morning and round up to 200 in the afternoon. So that's rounding up to the hundreds place. So as we kind of see here, this is where kind of our problem, not necessarily a problem, but our challenge kind of comes about. We have 3 days where our estimation to the hundredths place is 600. And then I'll put these in different colors. This is to 800. This is to 700. And then this is to 300. And this is also to 300. Okay. So, as we can see in the first situation, it's not a big deal because we can stay rounding to the hundredths place because there's only one estimation that we have that reaches 800 when we round to the nearest hundred. So that's going to be Thursday. So I'll go ahead and put that answer in. So A is going to be Thursday, and I'll show the thinking here as it says to. So rounding to the nearest, let's see. So Thursday was 414 and 394. So we'll round, we look at the 4 in question, go to the right. This will round to 400. 394, we look at that place value in question, look to the right. That will round up to 400 as well. get that sum of 800. Okay. Alright. Now let's look at letter B. So B again is one where we see that if we round to the nearest hundred in all of the following 7 days of the week, that only one of our estimations after rounding fits the closest approximation to 700, which is Friday. So we can again use that, and we don't have to be any more specific because only one of those days is the closest. Okay. So let's go ahead and show that again. So that's 354 and 340. So if we look at the 3 and we go to the right, this will round up to 400. And then if we look at this place value, this is 4 or less. So this is going to round down to 300. Okay. And then when we add that up, we'll get 700. Okay. Alright, so now we can kind of see that those 2 days can be rounded to the nearest hundred because again, there's no day that is competing for a closest value. Those two kind of hit the mark exactly at their estimation amounts from estimating to the nearest hundred. Now it gets a little trickier because if we look at C, it's about 300 cars. Well, there's 2 days where 300 cars are estimated at the nearest hundred, but we need to choose this day that is the closest. So what we have to do here is we have to look at Saturday and Sunday in a more detailed place value. So what we're going to do now is we're going to round to the nearest 10. So I'm going to scroll down a little bit here, and we'll look at those two values in more detail. So we have Saturday and we have Sunday, but again, I'm going to round to the nearest 10th for this. And that's going to allow me to find something a little bit more detailed and closer or farther away depending on the day to find my answer that is closest to the number of 300. So for Saturday, we have 185 and we have 109. Okay, so I'm actually going to go ahead and erase the Sunday here for the moment. Okay, so rounding to the nearest 10th, we look at that 10th place value, which is 8, and we look to the right and we see that's 5 or greater, so we're going to increase that up by 1 in the 10th place, so that's going to be 190. And remember, once we round that 1 place value up by 1, the rest of the zeros to the right, or the rest of the place values to the right become zeros. For this one, this is going to be 0. We look to the right, it also is 5 or greater, so it's going to round to 110. Now if we take the sum of 190 plus 110, we'll get 0 plus 0 is 0, 9 plus 1 is 10, put the 0 from the ones place, carry the 1 in the tens place. 1 plus 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3. So our estimation for Saturday is 300 on the dot. So that's going to be pretty hard for Sunday to beat because it's the exact estimation that we're looking for in this particular question. But just to get the extra practice, let's look at Sunday and see what our estimation would be. So for Sunday, we have 127 and we have 204. So again, we look at these tens place values. 2 is we're gonna look to the right. We're gonna see that that's 5 or greater in the ones place. So we're gonna round that tens place up by 1. That's gonna become 130. And then 204, we look at the 0 as the tens place in question. Look to the right, it's 4 or less, so we're going to round down, and that 0 is going to stay the same, and the rest of the place values to the right become zeros as well. So this is going to become 200. Now when we take this estimation, this is going to add up to 0 plus 0 is 0, 3 plus 0 is 3, and 1 plus 2 is 3. So this is going to become 330, which is 30 higher than not only the approximation we are looking for with about 300 cars, but it's also 30 higher than the estimation that Saturday got. And again, Saturday got that exact value of 300 that we're looking for. So Saturday is going to be our answer that is closest to the estimation. But in this case, it's actually right exactly for the estimation. Okay, so we have 185 rounds to 190, and then we have 109 rounds to 110. This rounds to 300. Okay, now let's look at situation D. So for D, it's about 600 cars. Now in this case, we have 3 days that we have to really be careful about. So again, we're going to use the same strategy. And one of the things that I really kind of want to emphasize here is, even though it seems like we have a lot of daunting of a task in front of us, like we have to figure out of 3 days, which one is closest to 600 cars, your strategy isn't going to change. You can still use the same approach as we did with Saturday and Sunday. So definitely feel that even though the number of days increases and it feels like the task is more challenging, the approach that we're using is perfect. So we don't have to change our approach. We just have to do it one more time. Okay? So I guess what I'm trying to say here is, don't let the length of the question or the difficulty of the number of times you may have to repeat a step intimidate you. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at the Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday to the nearest 10th. So I'm going to do Monday here, I'm going to do Tuesday here, and Wednesday here. Alright, so for Monday we have 278. We have 252 for the afternoon. For Tuesday we have 305. Excuse me. 305 and 349. And then for Wednesday we have 288 and 291. Okay, so again, let's go ahead and strategize here. So again, these are going to be all rounding to the tens place. Keep in mind, if we had to, we could always just use the exact numbers by rounding to the nearest one, but when we estimate, we want to kind of try to avoid that. So that's why rounding to the hundreds and tens place usually works for us. So 278, we'll round up because that 8 is 5 or greater. This is going to become 280. And then we have 252. That's the place in question. It's going to be, it's going to round down to 250. 305 is going to round down to 3, no, it's going to round up to 310, so the place value in question is the 0, up to the right. It's going to become 310. We're going to round 349 to 350. And then we'll round 288 to 290. And we'll round 291 to 290. Alright, so then let's go ahead and take our sums and see which one is closest to 600. So 280 plus 250 is going to be 0 plus 0 is 0. 8 plus 5 is 13. Drop the 3, carry the 1. 1 plus 2 is 3, plus 2 is 5, so let's give us 530. 310 plus 350 is going to be 0 plus 0 is 0. 1 plus 5 is 6. 3 plus 3 is 6. So that's going to be 660. So far Tuesday's closer to 600 than Monday's of 530 is. And then 290 plus 290, 0 plus 0 is 0. 9 plus 9 is 18. Carry the 1. 1 plus 2 is 3, plus 2 is 5. So 580 is our estimate for Wednesday. So Wednesday is going to be the closest day to the approximation or estimate of 600 cars because it's only 20 away, whereas 530 is 70 away and 660 is 60 away. Okay. Alrighty, so this is going to be Wednesday. Just put in the work here. Okay. Alrighty, so for the last question here, let's look at step ahead. It says, look at the table above. Estimate the total number of cars driven past the school in the mornings. Show your thinking. So what we can do here is I'm going to approach this in two ways. I'm going to first estimate to the nearest 100 by just adding up kind of what we did with the columns up here. And then we're going to round to the nearest 10, sorry. Again, you want to be really careful with that. I keep catching myself. So again, we're going to round to the nearest 100, then we're going to round to the nearest 10, just so you can see the difference in how detailed or how significantly different the estimations get. Okay, so for rounding to the hundreds, I'm going to actually go ahead and let's see here, how do I want to do this? So let's go ahead and output the, let's do it this way. So I'll do hundreds estimate. So we have 300 plus 300 plus 300. And again, we want to be really careful here because we're only focusing on the morning. So we're going to focus on this row. Plus 400 plus 400 plus 200 plus 100. Okay, we're going to add all these up. So 0 plus 0 plus 0 plus 0 plus 0 plus 0 plus 0 is 0. 0 plus 0 plus 0 plus 0 plus 0 plus 0 plus 0, 0. This is where you want to be really careful, and if you have to, you can always break these numbers up and then add them on individually. 3 plus 3 is 6, plus 3 is 9, plus 4 is 13, plus 4 is 17, plus 2 is 19, plus 1 is 20. So our estimation to the hundreds place is 2,000 cars. So I'll put hundreds equals 2,000. And now what we're going to do is we're going to do the tens place. Now, what we can do here, since I already accounted for Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, and Wednesday for the morning, I can account for those from my previous work, and then all I have to do is round Friday and Thursday. So Friday we will round 354 to 354 is going to round to 350, and Thursday, I'll keep as R, is going to round from 394, oh no, sorry, 414 is going to round to 410. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the same thing that I just did with the tens place, except now, or the hundreds place, but now I'm going to do it for the tens place. So for this we have 190 for Saturday, we have 130 for Sunday, we have 280 for Monday, we have 310 for Tuesday, we have 290 for Wednesday, we have 350 for Friday, and we have 400 and this is 410, my mistake. 410 for Thursday. So now we want to add all of these up. Okay. Alright, so 0 plus 0 plus 0 plus 0 plus 0 plus 0 plus 0 is 0. Again, you want to be really careful here. And again, if you have to break up the numbers, please do. You always want to keep things nice and organized. 9 plus 3 is 12, plus 8 is 20, plus 1 is 21, plus 9 is 30, plus 5 is 35, plus 1 is 36. I'm going to double check my math here in just a moment, but 3 plus 1 is 4, plus 1 is 5, plus 2 is 7, plus 3 is 10, plus 2 is 12, plus 3 is 15, plus 4 is 19. I just want to make sure I did that correctly. So we get 1960 as our estimate for the tens. And you can see that that's pretty close to our estimate from the hundreds. So we have 1,960. Okay, now I know that this question had a lot of steps to it. It was kind of a long kind of process, but I want to show you guys a very thorough, detailed, step-by-step kind of approach to these, so it's comfortable for you. But if you guys do have any questions about this, please don't hesitate to ask me. I'd be more than happy to help you out. But this does conclude lesson 2.1 on addition and making estimations. So I hope this helps you guys out, and I will be continuing to post these videos for, and again, this is kind of my unofficial introduction to the 4th grade Common Core. But if again you have any questions or requests for any kind of practice problems or anything like that, please let me know. But as always guys, thank you so much for watching, and please take good care. See you soon.